It's Absolutely Auburn, a place where we'll talk about all things Auburn, Maine, because we're in the middle of it all. The City of Auburn's communications team is dedicated to helping you connect with city government and learn everything you need to know about Auburn, our city, our people, our events, and our community. Welcome to Absolutely Auburn.
On this episode of Absolutely Auburn, we're going to learn all about the Auburn Resource Center, where it's located, what city services are available, and what community partners you will find there. Welcome back to Absolutely Auburn. I'm your host, Jenn Boenig, and joining me today in the studio are Glen Holmes, the Director of Business and Community Development with the City of Auburn, and Zakk Maher, the Deputy Director of Business and Community Development. Welcome.
Great to be here. Thanks for having us.
There have been some changes for your team recently. The Business and Community Development team moved into a great new space called the Auburn Resource Center, located at 121 Mill Street in New Auburn, which is just about a mile from City Hall.
Really? My office moved? Oh.
Surprise.
That's where you've been.
They forgot to tell you.
Exactly. I understand why.
That could be something totally different.
Exactly.
Not for this podcast.
Okay.
No. The building had been office space, but needed some work before the team could move in. So, Glen, can you share a little more about why the city purchased this space and the renovations that were needed to get your team into this new space?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having us in today, Jen. It's really a crazy story that has to do with the economy and housing and the homeless people in our community and the people that needed help. And it all kind of came together. So probably about 4 years ago now, the city purchased the building with the intent to make sure that we could have more housing. So the Economic Development Department put the property out for an RFP. We had responses. There was a developer who was really interested in putting in some pretty significant housing on that property. And then the interest rate started to climb. And as we started to move that project forward, it really became unattainable based on just the cost of building the housing and making it work, because it is a very unique lot. It's literally a peninsula on three sides surrounded by the Little Swift River, which makes it a really beautiful place. So when that happened, the city now had a building we needed to do something with, and we'd been talking for decades in both Lewis and Auburn and throughout Androscoggin County about how do we get a wraparound center where we can actually have multiple services servicing the population of the people in our community that really have the biggest need in one spot. Because right now, or actually before we built this, we actually mapped out where everybody had to go. And if you didn't have reliable transportation and had to worry about daycare and had to make appointments to be able to get food stamps and medical help and just work help and work fare and all these other different things, you would spend your entire day just doing that on a transportation system in our community that I thought was amazing until I actually tried to use it and found out that, in some places it's 2 hours between buses. Well, if I need to go someplace for a 30-minute appointment and then wait another hour and a half for a bus to get back to the other side of town, that can be really difficult. So this particular property was perfectly positioned. It actually is on a bus route that has a little bit less than a 2-hour headway, which was nice. And it is right within walking distance of downtown Lewiston and Auburn. So we have multiple different organizations that we can bring into this place. We've already got a number of them already there, and I'll let Zakk talk about some of those in a minute. But the entire general assistance staff, public health, community development are all in that building, and we have enough room for 194 people to come over and have dinner.
Oh, wow.
So, and then we have all the we can have conference rooms so people can have meetings and things and drop-in spaces. So it's really becoming a really great hub for all these things. And fortunately, we've been able to get funding from through CDBG, ARPA, CDBG.
I was going to say, what is CDBG for people who don't know
do this
the
for
lingo?
A living? So across the country, the Community Development Block Grant Program from the federal government gives certain size communities a certain amount of money every year to do services for those that need. The city is very fortunate. We're able, because we're in a compact with Lewiston and Auburn together, we can actually come up as basically a metropolitan area and able to get some of those funding. So we have CDBG funds, we have home funds. Home funds are literally, it's the home money that we help build the DeWitt project going on over in Lewiston. That help with that. We have some of those dollars we've used for different services, and we'll be using some of those on the Housing First project that's being done here in Auburn. So all that together, along with a loan from the federal government, which is being paid back by those CDBG dollars in the future, we're able to find all the money to do this project without having to go to the local taxpayers and ask them to come up with more money in the short term.
Well, that's great. I didn't realize it could hold so many people over there. I mean, I've been there, but I guess I just didn't.
That's according to the fire marshal, not me.
I believe you. I believe you. So you mentioned about collaboration and community partners. So I think having that space where people can go almost as a one-stop shop experience, because there's going to be different community partners there and not just the city offices, which is why it's the Auburn Resource Center. So Zakk, can you talk a little bit more about those city services as well as the community partners that are going to be or maybe they already are in the space in the Resource Center?
Yeah, absolutely. Our biggest kind of anchor from a city service point of view has always been general assistance. The team has expanded over the past couple of years as the needs have grown within the community. And what we started to do when we were still at 95 Main Street, when we had extra front desks out front, was offering our partners space to come in and really do direct warm handoffs. People doing housing navigation services or other housing stabilization. By moving to the Resource Center, provided more permanent space for partners to come in and work with our general assistance team. So it's really a place where they can interplay with each other when it comes to who's providing the best service in response to the need that residents are presenting. Because general assistance isn't always the answer. It's not always allowed to provide the help that people really need. And that's when we really tried to find a way to open up and provide space for a lot of these nonprofit partners to come in and do the work that they do and find a way that they can specialize and dovetail with the other service providers that we have. Right now we have 10 nonprofits working out of the space with our team.
Oh, wow.
And that really has opened up opportunities for them to specialize in what they're doing and then take direct referrals in-house. So we're not, like Glenn alluded to before, when you'd go and you'd meet with the general assistance team and it's like, yes, well, you'd be a great person to work with one of these nonprofit service providers. Their office is 40 minutes on the other side of town by foot. Good luck. So by bringing them together, we can really walk down the hall from one service provider to the next and just make a warm in-person handoff and get people while they're there and really maximize the time that they've spent out in the community trying to gain resources that they need to move their family forward.
Excellent.
So I just want to say also, because I know it's all about money, it's
a large part of
it really is
of things, yes.
And the other thing that this allowed us to do by having all those partners there is every one of them is actually paying rent to the city. So, to have that building just for the city and run it would be probably $100,000 a year just to keep the lights on, the sewer and water, plowing, all those things going on. And we're able to offset that by those partners. And at this point, we will be bringing in pretty much $100,000 a year from those partners to help pay all those bills. So again, trying really hard to make this as neutral to the city when it comes to having a cost as we possibly can.
And what I'll do is I will include in the show notes for this episode a list of those partners so we don't have to rattle off a bunch of names necessarily here, but I will include a list for people so that they know what community partners are at the Auburn Resource Center. And Glenn, if there is an organization that listens to this and they're interested, do you still have space available? How would they reach out if they're interested in learning more about the Resource Center and if it's a good fit for them?
Yeah, we do. We actually have, I believe, 2 offices left, which there are 600 and 800, depending on which office you choose. The 800 are a little bit larger and have windows to the outdoors, and the 600 are smaller and are inside internal offices. As far as who to reach out to, if you call the city and you'll get to the receptionist and just ask to speak to the community development department, then they'll probably go to Holly or Jenn or Gwen, and they'll be able to give you that. There's a small form you fill out. If it's a nonprofit, it's a reduced rate. And we're here to really make this work. So we're working with people to, if they have an event that is really focused on what we're trying to do, then we can look at reducing rates. But obviously, if you want to come in and do something that's for a for-profit, still love to have you, but you're going to pay a little bit more to help offset the cost for everybody else.
Right. Well, that makes sense. So I know there's still some work that's happening on the building and outside the building. I know there's work being done to the large parking lot. There's been some signage that's been put up. But I also think I remember hearing something about a kitchen. So, Zakk, can you talk a little bit more about that? Is there a kitchen there yet, or will there be a kitchen?
There will be a kitchen. There is not yet, though it is almost done. We are still shooting for a November 30th.
Early December.
And that kitchen it's really going to operate more of like a timeshare kitchen. What we were trying to do is maximize the space. I mean, the expense to build out a kitchen and not have it used as much as possible, and one organization can really only use it so much. So right now we have it built out in a way that it'll service the drop-in center when they're operating on Wednesdays and Saturdays as a soup kitchen. So they'll have a full system and backroom storage for all of their food. And on the days that they're not working and not operating, we also have brought in an agreement with the YMCA as a food pantry program to do an actual on-site food pantry in the community room in the adjoining kitchen, another 2 days a week, trying to hopefully get them up and running before the holiday season.
And speaking of kitchen, I do want to shout out to Gritty's. When Gritty's closed their Freeport location, they reached out to see if they could help. They had heard about the project, and they donated a ton of kitchen equipment that we've been able to get cleaned up and made sure it works. And we're going to be using a fair amount of that in our kitchen to save us probably $15,000 just in expenses by using that equipment. So thank you to Gritty's.
That's fantastic. So the weather will be getting colder, and when it gets really cold, we sometimes will stand up a temporary warming center. Glen, is the Auburn Resource Center going to be on the list of city buildings where people can go in those situations if the weather calls for it?
So the short answer to that is yes, but I do want to explain a little bit. So the city has a policy when it gets so cold or so hot that certain buildings are opened up for the public, people who need to come in and get warmed up or cooled off. And that criteria is very specific, and it's been approved by the city council, and it's the city policy, and it's only for during business hours. So our building is open from 8:30 to 4. So, on a cold day when it's sub-zero out, there's a fair chance that the city would have a warming center. People would be allowed to come in. They can sit at the tables. We don't provide any special stuff. They just come in and can hang out there, charge their phone or whatever like that. We are in discussions. Obviously, we're City of Lewis and Auburn are great partners when it comes to all the last, since I've been here, partnering in the wintertime for a warming center, and of course, Lewiston's looking at building an actual permanent shelter. And those things are moving forward. So we're working really closely with Lewiston to make sure we're keeping up shoulder to shoulder with them on what they're doing for a warming center. If that moves forward, then we wouldn't necessarily put something here, because to have two of these in the two cities really makes it just more expensive for everybody, twice as many volunteers is needed, all those things. But at the same time, we do have a plan that if for some reason that can't happen, that we would have some level of shelter, warming center. And the reason I care about the words here, shelter means beds, warming center simply means there's a place to come in and sit and stay warm, but there's no beds, they're not made for overnight accommodations. So we will have that plan in place. We're working on that now, and hopefully we don't need it. Hopefully, we can partner with the city of Lewiston, and they can do what they've done in the last couple of winters, and they've done a really good job finding the right contractors to do the work. They get tremendous amounts of donations there, and they've got a really great system. So hope that answers the question.
Yes, it does. Well, yeah. So it'll definitely be on the list if the need arises. Is there anything else, Zakk, about the Auburn Resource Center that we didn't touch on that you want to mention?
I think from a concept, though, and what we've been trying to put out is to use it as a model for what we can do and what other cities can do. We've taken kind of a two-phase approach to it. One of them is really acknowledging where a city and a municipality can really step in and solve problems when it would better suit nonprofits, some organizations that can work quicker, faster, especially with a more volunteer base, more cost effective. So to provide space within a city setting for nonprofits to work and to collaborate, I think it's been really fruitful so far. Glen's a big team builder, and he's been really pushing, which is great, having worked with him for a while, to watch new people who don't necessarily even work for the city sit in partner meetings and see the way that he facilitates collaboration among people. It's great. It's an experience. I mean, and the second is working with them in a way, too, to recognize that a lot of nonprofits are competing for resources, especially now with diminishing funding opportunities, even that the city's seeing, on how we can actually maximize by helping them understand where service providers within the city as well as the nonprofits can really specialize in what they do and not compete on everything. If someone is doing something very well, we don't need 4 other nonprofits really trying to do that same work. Same thing, the city doesn't need to step in and try and do something that a local service provider has been doing really well for years. It's just not cost effective, and it's almost creates more frustration within the community. So by putting everybody at the same table, we've been finding a lot more cost effective ways and ways to share the data that we've all been gleaning individually in compounding that, and that's been allowing us to sell the idea and the concept a lot more effectively right now to HUD and our federal funders, but I think as well to the rest of the community.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that it would work as a model for other municipalities to look at.
We hope so. I mean, there's been challenges, obviously, but I can't speak, highly enough of the city council's support. I mean, obviously, when you put a project like this in some ward in any city, there's going to be pushback. And I can tell you that the neighbors have been, very informative for us. I mean, they are right there, Johnny on the spot, to give us a call when something's going wrong so we can address it. And I'm sure sometimes it seemed a little adversarial, but it's been very much welcome. And I think we've been able to really work with the neighbors in that area to make this a much better project. Public Works Department has been down and done a ton of work for us that needed to be done just because the city owned the property, but because of what we're doing, we're able to get it done probably a little sooner, which has been fantastic. And I mean, all the employees throughout the city have just been a huge support, including this, to let us come on and talk about it so everybody can hear about it.
Fantastic. Now I'm going to shift gears a little bit away from the Auburn Resource Center and ask you a question that I ask all of our guests. And that is, what's your favorite thing about Auburn? And it does not have to be work related. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. And either one of you can go first.
Oh, we'll both answer, I'm sure. Go ahead.
Well, no, you both will answer. But...
Oh, darn.
I'm going to keep it about work, actually. I really appreciate having something like Auburn as the employer. They're a fantastic employer, let's be honest. But also, it's just such a more vibrantly, economically sound community to work for than the little small town that I live in. And it is so close. A 10-minute commute to a pretty well-established area with a lot of my kids love shopping. There's a lot of places that we can get out and do more hiking, more water access that you don't get in other cities either. It's great for that. And then I can still go home back to the woods and
hibernate,
disconnect.
Yeah, I think that Zakk's, right. Auburn is a great place to work. I've worked at a number of places and a number of careers, and I can tell you that the team here. I mean, there's over 300 employees, is my understanding, in the city of Auburn, and I really feel like wherever I go in any department, I'm welcomed, and people really want to try to help everybody get things done. And as far as the city itself, I live in Buckfield, and it's only 15 minutes away, but I never knew how many amenities actually existed, and I would be surprised if most people who live here know of all the different things that you can do and places you can go and see. It's one of the largest cities in Maine as far as geographic area, and I never understood that till I had to go walk the land on a 40-acre parcel in basically almost downtown Auburn. It's crazy. So. Yeah, it's a wonderful place to work and probably to live, but I'm going to stay in Buckfield.
That's all right. We won't hold it against you. So, yeah, I think that's that's a theme that I hear from a lot of the folks that come on the podcast is Auburn really is in a great location and has so many different things to offer, whether it's skiing or fishing or downtown and shopping, going out to dinner, whatever it might be. chances are you can find it here in Auburn. So
It's pretty rare that you get a TJ Maxx and a ski slope in the same city.
Exactly.
that is very true. Apparently the girls do like to shop, huh?
And ski.
And ski. So, as I mentioned before, I will put a list of contact information for the Auburn Resource Center as well as the different community partners that are there. So, if you want to reach out to Glen and Zakk or someone on the team, you will be able to do that through the show notes.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, Jen.
Thanks for joining us on Absolutely Auburn. You can find all things Auburn, Maine at auburnmaine.gov and goauburn.me. You can also listen to us anytime, anywhere you get your podcasts, including Apple and Google Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, just to name a few. The City of Auburn's communications team wants to remind you that Absolutely Auburn is the only official podcast for the City of Auburn, Maine.